Hey everyone, welcome back to my fragrance review channel. Today is day 2 of my Britney Spears week. Yesterday I did private show, so thank you everyone who watched that video. I hope you really enjoyed it. Today I'm actually going to be doing a bit of a double review. I'm going to be talking about the Fantasy Naughty and Nice remix that came out in 2014. This was actually a 2-piece collection that kind of took the original Fantasy fragrance and split it in half into the sort of lighter, nicer notes and the darker, naughtier notes. I found this idea to be so interesting because rather than just taking, Fantasy and remixing it and making it a new edition, she took the notes that are already present, didn't add anything. Neither of these two fragrances have anything new added. They're just the original notes split into all of their, into 2 different groups, the light and the dark, and just to create those 2 different completely opposite kind of reflections of the same kind of fragrance. So I thought it was kind of interesting concept that I really enjoyed. Okay, so first I'm going to take a look at the advertisement that she did for the collection. So this is the Naughty and Nice collection. There's actually a really fun commercial that she did that you can see on the website or on YouTube. But this is the actual print ad that was circulating in magazines. So both of these, of course, are Britney, but we have the nice Britney over here, who actually doesn't look that nice. She kind of looks terrified. And then we have the darker sort of witch Britney, which is representative of the Naughty remix, and both of the bottles are on the bottom there. So the original catchphrase for Fantasy, back in 2005 was Fantasy, everybody has one. So now we have the same written there, Fantasy, everybody has one, naughty or nice. Oh, I've never actually noticed this, but the real Fantasy, like the original Fantasy, her ghost is kind of like hidden behind. Like you see like this, the faint silhouette of the original Fantasy kind of hidden behind the 2 new versions. Always new things to discover. Alright, so let's take a look at the boxes. So they're similar to each other, just a different sort of color scheme. So this is the box for Fantasy, the Nice remix. So we have the traditional Fantasy kind of crazy swirls that we saw. Actually, let's take a look at the original Fantasy. Okay, I'm back. I had to sort of like jump into my closet and like destroy it. But I found my original Fantasy box. Now this is the original Fantasy box. Back in 2005, when she first started releasing them, they came in this sort of like box like this that I showed like, way back when I reviewed this fragrance. So this style of box isn't like around anymore, but the patterns are still present if you buy like the new gift sets. So we have like the crazy Fantasy swirls in blue, pink, green, and white, and like the triangles and all that. Nice remix is the same swirls, but everything is in a pink and white color palette with a little bit of black. So it's a new sort of take on the colors, and of course we have the triangle in the center there. Goes all along the sides of the box, and that's about it. Now, of course, the original Fantasy bottle we all have seen a million times. So here she is in all of her glory with her green crystals and her bright pink bottle. And now the Nice remix comes in this style of bottle. So it's a lot taller. We have a white base that sort of transcends into Fantasy's signature pink color. Same Fantasy circular lid on the top with this sort of like banded, jeweled collar. Other than the height and the fact that the crystals are missing from the bottle, the only other difference is of course the Fantasy charm that hangs around the top of the bottle. So this is actually a removable accessory. You can, it comes with a little clasp, you can undo it and then wear it as a bracelet or an anklet. It's a silver chain with little pink beads, 1 and 2. And then we have a little charm that says, I don't know if you guys can see it that well, but it says XOXO Britney on the front of it, and on the back we have a little N for nice. So this is the new remix edition of the bottle. This is 100 milliliters. It does come in smaller sizes as well, but I got the larger one. Now, since they are two sides of the same coin, I want to talk about the Naughty box and such before I get into the actual fragrance. The Naughty box is simple as well. It's the same style, but it's just the color scheme that's a little bit different. So rather than the pinks and whites of Nice, we have the darker purples of the Naughty remix. And together they form this crazy sort of Alice in Wonderland trip down the rabbit hole. And then for our Naughty bottle, it comes in this form. So it's the same style, same size, but rather than the sort of light to pink transition, we just have, we have a very dark purple on the base, and then it kind of transcends into a still dark, but not quite as dark purple towards the top. And the lid is a little bit different. It's harder to see in this light, but it's like a deep magenta color rather than a dark purple. And then we have the same beaded collar and another accessory that's similar to the Nice. Actually, it's exactly the same. So mine actually is draped a little differently. This was sort of a naughty coincidence. I ordered these two bottles online, and Nice arrived nicely, but Naughty was kind of like toppled over in the box, and when I took it out, the chain was actually broken. So at first I was going to return it because I wanted, like, you know, everything to be perfect. But then I thought, after I kind of re-draped it, I kind of liked how it was a little bit different than the Nice one, and I didn't really intend on wearing these. I just wanted to like keep them on the bottles. So yeah, this is technically a broken bracelet, but it is originally supposed to be the same style as the Nice one. Alright, so we've looked at the new design on the boxes and the bottles. Now let's take a look at the two fragrances and how they are similar and different from each other and from the original Fantasy. So, as I said, the notes in these two fragrances are not new notes. They are all original notes from the original Fantasy. And so we're going to take a look at which ones went where. And to help with that, I sort of made this it's sort of like a Britney Fantasy Venn diagram with the two new ones and the original. I won't show it to you because it's like too nerdy, but I'm going to use it. So in the original Fantasy, alright, our precious beloved Fantasy from 2005, the top note consisted of kiwi, quincy, and lychee. So they're all those sorts of like exotic, kind of silly fruits, and that was part of giving Fantasy its signature. Not the sweet signature, but that sort of oddball kind of fruit concoction. So what became of these three fruits? Well, Kiwi thought long and hard about where she wanted to go. Is she a nice girl? Is she a naughty girl? Kiwi ended up joining the Nice remix, and it is the first and only fruit that we'll find in the Nice remix. As for quincy and lychee, those betrayers decided that they've had just about enough of Fantasy. They wanted nothing to do with this nonsensical remix garbage reunion, and they decided to leave completely, and they are absent. They're the only two notes that did not come back for this little remix. They are absent in both of these fragrances, so that means that kiwi is the only fruit in the Nice remix, and so far the Naughty remix has nothing. Moving to the heart of the original Fantasy, we had jasmine petals, sweet cupcake, and white chocolate orchid. Now, of course, those soft jasmine petals and that cupcake accord is really what people think of when they think of Fantasy. So both of those notes are in both of the two new ones. Both the Naughty and Nice remix have jasmine petals and cupcake in the heart. However, as for that white chocolate orchid, she made the conscious decision, the important decision, to go down the naughty path, and that is the top note of the Naughty remix. So far we have kiwi, jasmine petals, and cupcake in the Nice remix, and white chocolate orchid Jasmine and Cupcake in the Naughty remix. So they're pretty similar right now. We can sort of just say that Nice is fruitier and not quite as floral, and Naughty is a little bit creamier because of that white chocolate orchid, but with no fruits. But it's really the base that kind of like distinguishes them more so. So the base of Fantasy, the original, had creamy musks, orris root, and sensual woods. Well, that creamy musk has remained to be the driving force of both fragrances, and it is found in both of them. So it smooths them both out and gives it that more intimate, musky kind of aroma in the base. As for the other two, the orris root and the sort of woodier notes, those darker, richer, a little bit spicier kind of elements, of course, have reserved themselves for the Naughty remix. They are completely absent in the Nice remix, and they give Naughty that sort of darker, longer lasting, deeper aroma that sets it apart from the Nice remix. Okay, so I know that was a lot of like notes and Naughty and Nice nonsense. What does it all mean? So I'm now going to just give you more of a scent breakdown of how the two of them differ. So I do feel like of the two of them, it's the Nice remix that's more similar to the original Fantasy. You really do get that delicious cupcake accord, and of course that kiwi's there to kind of give us that same opening note. However, the other two fruits are gone, all the richer notes of the base are gone, so it's a much fluffier, lighter kind of version of the original Fantasy. I find it to be more comforting, like it's a little bit cozier. I never found the original Fantasy to be cozy. Like I always found it, you know, sweet obviously, but also sparkling and charming and flirtatious, whereas this one is like kind of like a shyer, you know, nice remix of the original. It seems like it's just a little bit warmer, more subtle version. No, there's nothing really sparkly about it because those other like sillier fruits are gone. So it's just really the fluffier, brighter kind of qualities. You know, I think the bottle, just having that white base going into the pink, really kind of shows that it's sort of that airy, cloudy version of Fantasy, where it's just the softer elements, the kiwi, the cupcake, the jasmine petals, a very cozy fragrance that kind of wraps itself around you and makes you feel nice. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the Naughty remix. Now remember, Naughty does not have any fruits. All she has is the jasmine petals and the sweet cupcake in the heart of the fragrance, with the white chocolate orchid to back them up on a base of creamy musk, orris root, and sensual woods. Now let me just start by saying, I think this is one of Britney's most mature and seductive fragrances that she has ever made. So it really does skip all of that top note, fruity, inspiration, welcome to the show nonsense, and just gets straight to it. It is a very rich, deep, sweet, woody fragrance, with a nice spice to it, and I actually really enjoy wearing it. And I'm going to say right now, because a lot of people sometimes ask me, you know, what Britney fragrance could a guy wear? And, you know, I obviously wear all of them, but for someone who, you know, is a guy who only wears men's fragrances, I think out of all of them, this is the one that I would most recommend that a guy could wear and sort of get away with, because it doesn't have any of those like more soft or feminine, fruity kind of notes that are found in a lot of her other fragrances. It's just a rich, spicy, woody kind of fragrance. It is quite sweet because of course we do have that cupcake, but the cupcake comes across as very different than it does in the Nice remix or in the original Fantasy. It's not like a whipped cream, fluffy, sugary cupcake. It's like almost like a cinnamon cookie, like a dark, fresh baked cinnamon cookie. So it's not like a fluffy sweet, it's like a deeper, richer molasses kind of sweet. And it has oddly a strong, like almost leathery note to it. I think it's just those woody notes and the orris root, you know, they're kind of free to just like own the party because all those fruits are gone, some of the heart is gone, so this is very heavy on the base. After all of these years, those notes finally get to take center stage and kind of rule this Fantasy fragrance, and I think it's definitely worth trying. Someone who really loves the original Fantasy might not like this one. I think this one as I said, is more similar to the original, so this one will probably get more of those die-hard fantasy fans on board, whereas this one is, you know, that naughtier, darker remix. It's more original, and it's my preferred choice of the two of them. I find it long-lasting, and I find it very mysterious and dark, and again, something that I think would be good for a guy to wear if you are looking for a Britney fragrance that's not too kind of, you know, girly. This is definitely my recommendation for you. So I'm wearing the Naughty remix. I put it on a little while ago, and the base notes just get like smokier and spicier as time goes on. The sweetness fades a little bit, and you're left with that sort of darker, musky, almost like masculine note. So I think it's a nice addition to her fragrance, and you know, it's too bad that it was sort of stuck with that fantasy name, because I think a lot of people might not try it if they didn't like the original fantasy, but that's not really fair. I think you really should give it a try, because it does sort of stand out as its own kind of deep in the woods fragrance that I think is a great addition to her collection and really adds a new layer of depth. Alright guys, that is the end of my Fantasy Naughty and Nice remix video. I think both of them are great remixes on the fragrance. My preferred choice would be the Naughty remix, but you guys can go ahead and smell them and tell me what you think, which one you like, and whether you think that they do the original Fantasy justice. Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I got another Britney video coming tomorrow to continue Britney week. I hope you guys are enjoying it. So I will see you guys soon for some more Britney reviews.